The Sky Genie channel, that's not very nice, in the chat, says Vince McMahon should fall down a flight of stairs. Come on now, let's be nice. 11 years ago today, WWE started its Be a Star anti-bullying campaign. Can't be saying that about Vince McMahon. AEW Dynamite is off the air, and the Solomonster is on with your Sound Off Extra Dynamite review here for April 29th, 2020. Indeed, it was 11 years ago today that the Be a Star campaign was started. How about that? Be a star, everybody. And if there's one lesson to take away from tonight's show, it is to call your grandmother. Chris Jericho commands you to call your grandmother. Hit that subscribe button and set those notifications to the on position. Super chats are also open for those of you who wish to donate. Those of you who want to contribute here to the show tonight and show your support. The special super chat amounts are listed down below in the description, including the new $30 and up Hulkamania one. We had, I think, one or two of those last week. And you can vote right now in the Dynamite and NXT polls on Twitter at Solomonster. I'll be running down the results a little bit later on in the show. I have to mention this before we move on because it is just, I know it's not an AEW thing, but I gotta mention this just because it is too tempting for me not to. If you enjoyed the Boneyard match at WrestleMania this year between The Undertaker and AJ Styles, then boy does WWE have a deal for you. You can pre-order your very own Undertaker Boneyard Edition plaque, as seen here on your screen right in front of you. As you can see, it includes a few shots of The Undertaker during the match, AJ Styles' hand coming up from the grave. And more importantly, it includes a capsule of dirt from the match itself, which looks, if you look at that picture, it looks more like a bowl of oatmeal, right? I can't be the only one who sees that. It looks like a bowl of Quaker Oats. So that's what it looks like to me. But anyway, you can get your own capsule of dirt. $75 for a picture of The Undertaker and some dirt. I'm not sure if that's better or worse than the Daniel Bryan bearded hat that they used to sell a few years ago. Or remember the APA Bar and Grill shirt that said always pounding ass on the back? Yes, that's a real thing. The APA once had a t-shirt that on the back said always pounding ass. I guess this would be worse though, since that shirt didn't set you back $75. So there's only 536 of these plaques that have been made. So WWE is banking that there are at least 536 people that will buy this. And you know what? They're probably right. A capsule of dirt. At least autograph the damn thing. Right? At least if The Undertaker autographed it or something, that'd be a different story. Holy moly. Anyway, let's get this party started here. We already have a whole bunch of super chats coming in. Prince Walker, what's going on? Prince Walker, thank you for the $5. Lord Frieza, thank you for the $1.99. Always good to hear from Lord Frieza. He's been working crazy hours. I think either people have been working crazy hours or they're not working any hours because they're laid off. I think it's one extreme or the other these days. JP, 5150. And Wavy Davy. What's going on, Wavy Davy? The show opened tonight with the first of two semifinal matches in the TNT title tournament. The championship tournament is underway. And we are getting down to the nitty gritty here. Tonight we had two semifinal matches. The first one opened the show, Cody against Darby Allin. This was their third match together. They went to a time limit draw, if you remember. I think that was the Fyter Fest show last year, I believe. And Cody won their second match, which I want to say was on Dynamite back in January. So Cody was 2-0 coming into this match. I sense a kind of like a budding situation here, just to use a New Japan comparison, because I'm very kind of New Japan starved. I need my New Japan fix, and I have no idea when I'm going to be able to get it. But it kind of reminds me of Okada and Sonata. I think Okada had like 6 straight wins or something over Sonata. We could be seeing something very similar here before Darby eventually gets his big win. But anyway, this went over 20 minutes. I thought it was really good. I'd say it was pretty much in line with the other matches the two of them have had. I can't really say it was much better. Certainly no worse. I enjoy the chemistry that these two have together. Story of the match was Darby working over Cody's left knee. So that was the focus here for him here during this match. A few minutes in, very early in the match, they're outside. Cody sidestepped a charge from Darby, sent Darby right into Brandy Rhodes. Right into his wife. And there was no, like, they showed a replay of it and everything. There was no debating what happened here. He sidestepped this guy and basically threw him into his own wife. What a shitty husband. So back inside, she could do a lot better. So back inside, Cody got the upper hand for a little bit. Darby went after the knee. Was using every trick in the book. He was using a heel hook. I love that Vader gif. I noticed Vader dropping the kid out of the corner of my eye. I just had to say that. It's one of my favorite super chats. So Allin used a heel hook. He used a knee bar. He used what I guess you would call a float over Indian Deathlock. I mean, that's what I wrote in my notes. I just wrote float over Indian Deathlock. That's kind of what it reminded me of. He's going after this guy's knee. So Cody rolls outside to try to get a second wind, trying to get his wind back. And on the outside, Britt Baker is in the crowd. Britt Baker hits Cody with her shoe. That was not the last of the entertaining Britt Baker moments here on this show. Britt Baker was great. So they go to commercial, they come back. Cody's making a comeback. Hits a lariat. Hits an X-Plex. Disaster kick. Allin comes back. Hits a crossroads on Cody. Gets a near fall. Brandy all of a sudden is hobbling back out to bring her man a bottle of water. Not sure what the point of this stuff with Brandy was. Didn't really go anywhere. Unless this is the first of several incidents that are going to be taking place between them, which would be a mistake. All I'm going to say about that, if that's the direction they're going in here, something with Brandy and Cody, and maybe I'm reading too much into it, but those who do not learn from the past are doomed to repeat it. If I'm Cody, don't do that. Do not book your own separation here from your wife. Just ask Kevin Sullivan. So Darby went for a second rope coffin drop. Cody caught him on the way down, hit the crossroads. Darby kicked out. Cody went to the top rope for a coffin drop of his own. Allin got the knees up. The finish had Darby going up top. Hit a massive he got some real hang time on this. Hit a coffin drop, big coffin drop off the top. And as he's going for the pin, he's laying, his back, he's sprawled over Cody. Cody hooks him into a backslide, basically, and pins him. Cody's shoulders clearly up, Darby's shoulders clearly down. I actually liked the finish. There were a few people in my replies who I saw didn't like it. I liked it. I thought it was a clever way of beating Darby without really beating him clean. Yeah, it's not like Cody hit the crossroads twice and just pinned him. If it were me, and I said this on PWR when I was on PWR Primetime on Monday night, I would have sent Darby to the finals against Archer. And I would have saved that Cody Archer match for a later date. I don't necessarily think there's got to be a big rush. But this was the predictable finish for what they have been building to with Archer and Cody and all the Jake the Snake promos. So I enjoyed this. I thought this was very good. And interestingly enough, when the match was over, Dasha announced the winner as Cody Rhodes. Not just Cody. She said Cody Rhodes. Which is interesting because Cody just filed a trademark application for the name Cody Rhodes back on April 13th. WWE apparently allowed it to expire. I think it expired late last year. and you have a 6-month grace period. I guess they didn't do anything. They didn't act, which is kind of strange because now they're contesting a whole bunch of other copyrights and trademarks that Cody filed for, but I guess they let the Cody Rhodes name lapse, and as soon as it did, I think on day one, not that Cody was paying attention clearly, but he went and filed his own trademark. So I don't know if he got it. I mean, that would seem awfully quick, to get it in 2 weeks. Or maybe he just feels that he can use it because nobody else owns it technically at the moment. But I did notice that in the announcement that it was Cody Rhodes announced as the winner. Shout out to Scorpio Sky's well-trimmed beard for the $2 super chat. It says, Hogan Warrior Sweat from WrestleMania 6, $50 an ounce. Hey, don't fool around there. There are people who would pay for that. There's going to be plenty of people buying that Boneyard plaque. Lord Frieza, thank you for the $5. AEW should sell Penelope Ford's bathwater. Okay, come on now. Maybe we'll all chip in. How about that? Oh my goodness. I didn't even know about this whole gamer girl thing until somebody told me about it the other day. I'm like, what are you, bathwater? What are you talking about? What sick freak would do something like that? And I looked into it and I regret the fact that I did. Sketch and Sound, thank you for the super chat. Anna J, Penelope Ford, or Mandy Rose. Oh, you're going to make me choose, aren't you? I'd probably go with Penelope Ford. Soggy Fries, thank you for the $5, or I guess $5.75. Lance Archer has committed murder tonight. Poor Dustin. Yeah, maybe Dustin ought to consider retiring. We're teasing retirement for Dustin in that match with Kip Sabian. Might not be a bad idea to consider that after what we saw tonight. So we got another Scorpio Sky video. I do love me some character development here on these shows. Of course, we got a video the previous week talking about Scorpio Sky, being a wrestling fan from a very young age and visiting his mother's grave, wondering if he'd be able to recover from the back injury at the beginning of the decade that he had. So this week, talked about the beginnings of SCU. Is it SCU or is it SCU? What's the right way to say it? Is it SCU? Is that what it is? Somebody in the chat will tell me. Said he didn't want to be the third guy in an already established act, but things gelled very well and everything worked out in the end. Said he earned a world title match, something he thought he would never get. That was the match he had with Jericho a few months ago. He just wants to be a legend. Well, time will tell. It's a little too early to be talking about that, but time will tell. We got a MJF vignette. Very important medical update on Maxwell. Jacob Friedman said that he saw his nail doctor. I didn't even know they had such a thing. I feel like everybody maybe should have one of these. I mean, I've heard of, everyone has their general practitioner. Some people have a gastroenterologist. Some people have a podiatrist. Some people have a hematologist or an oncologist like I do. MJF saw his nail doctor for his hangnail, his career-threatening hangnail. Not only did he recover from his injury, said the doctor told him that his nail is now even stronger than it was before, which is great to hear. It's great news. He was very excited, he said, to be back live on Dynamite. He was so excited, in fact, that in preparing, I guess, for the show, he nicked his neck while he was shaving. Suffered another terrible injury. Says any other man would have bled out and died, but not him. Not MJF. And he removed his scarf to reveal a neck brace. He was looking forward to coming back and wrestling in front of 6 or 7 of his peers, but it's going to have to wait. So another terrible setback here for MJF, but we are all rooting for him. We are all rooting for a fast recovery. I fear that he is starting to possibly become as injury-prone as Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe is so injury-prone, he's now back to being an announcer. I'm not so sure that that isn't the best spot for Samoa Joe, especially if it keeps Jerry Lawler off commentary. We had Musa. Musa, we were told, is a young, I think late 20s independent wrestler from Chicago, Illinois. He got the chance to die this week at the hands of Wardlow. Tony Schiavone called this an assassination. Sounds like a pretty good description. They gave Musa a few moves, but ended as you would expect. Wardlow had Musa on the top rope. Was it the top rope or the middle rope? He had him on the ropes, and he kind of let him just fall forward into a brutal knee lift. He caved this poor guy's face in. And then he hit the F10 for the win. So another fun squash here for Wardlow. What's going on, Andrew? Thank you for the super chat. Says, please buy Undertaker soil and review it for us. Should I? Should I take $75 of your super chat money and buy a capsule of Undertaker and AJ dirt from WrestleMania? I mean, how does one review dirt? I'll do it if you want me to. I just don't know what I'm reviewing. Am I reviewing the texture of the soil? Am I looking for pieces of AJ's remains in the soil? You know, I mean, I got to be careful here. We don't want any corona in the soil. If you tell me exactly how I'm supposed to review dirt, I'll consider it. I like to put your super chat money to better use, though. You know, new equipment, other aspects of the show, you know, the phone calls. I don't know that a capsule of dirt is the smart way to go. Jacob Donnelly, thank you for the $5. Says, whose beatdown on Marko was worse, Brodie Lee's or Lance Archer? By far. Lance Archer, I mean, it was like a homicide. I mean, not that the Brodie Lee thing looked very pleasant for Marko, but I gotta definitely buy on Lance Archer by far. And the antagonist with the $10 Russo on a pole drop says, thanks for keeping the podcast going through these trying times. Can't tell how many times I refresh Spotify for your content. Which heel did you hate the most growing up? Which heel did I hate the most growing up? Well, I don't know. Probably like, I'm guessing probably Honky Tonk Man. Might be one of the earliest heels I can remember seeing live. I'd say Honky Tonk Man. There's nothing very likable about him. Nothing very likable about him now either. Although he does do some very entertaining shoot interviews, I will say. We got the third installment of the Bubbly Bunch with all 5 members of the Inner Circle. They were talking about Sammy Guevara's flim-flam victory last week. He had his bottle of hand sanitizer that he won as, you know, his prize for winning the competition. And all of a sudden, Chris Jericho, who is in full clothing, he's fully clothed. He's on the, what was he on? He was on the not the Stairmaster. What the hell was he on? He was on the bike. He has an exercise bike in his gym. And he suggests that they have themselves a good old-fashioned Manitoba melee. Or as Vince McMahon would call it, a Manitoba melee. That's how he used to pronounce the word. Melee. Which was basically a virtual brawl. Each person threw a punch or a kick or a weapon into the camera. They filmed this with a whole bunch of different people. So each time somebody would hit their camera, their phone camera or whatever, it would change to a different person. I have to say this. Jake Hager should have been automatically disqualified for being the only person to film his video vertically. So we got, the black bars on both sides. Really? It's 2020. Why do people still do this? Why do they hold their phone vertical? This annoyed the crap out of me. He was the only one. Everybody else filmed the proper way. I couldn't believe this. We had Peter Avalon make a cameo here, the librarian. Jungle Boy, Sonny Kiss, Luther, Kevin Smith, and Jason Mewes were featured. Lou Ferrigno, the Incredible Hulk, who grabbed a taser for some reason and tased all of us, I guess. Jericho's dad, Ted Irvine, he grabbed a hockey stick and hit the camera. Virgil, Lonely Virgil. Now he's lonely at home under quarantine. He grabbed the trash can lid, hit the camera. Gabriel Iglesias, Fluffy, he appeared. And it ended with Vicky Guerrero. I have no idea who the other people were. They had about 3 or 4 other people in this skit. I don't claim to know who they were. I don't really care who they were. No idea. I did like this more than I liked that dumb flim-flam segment from last week. So, you know, that's a plus. Somebody in the chat said Hager is a boomer. Yeah, that might be it. Hager can't be... How old is Jake Hager? I'm probably older than he is. And I ain't no boomer. I don't think Jake Hager is old enough to be a boomer. I don't know about that. We had the Best Friends against Jimmy Havoc and Kip Sabian in a wild, no disqualification match. This was crazier than I actually expected it to be. We had Havoc suplexing Chuck Taylor onto a pile of chairs on the floor. Trent speared Jimmy Havoc at one point on the floor. Havoc used a ladder, hit a slingshot on Trent into the ladder. We had Trent and Chuck Taylor throwing chairs at Jimmy Havoc's head. Havoc pulled Trent off. He yanked him. He yanked him off the top rope at one point. The ladder was bridged between the ropes. He yanked him off the ropes. He landed right on the ladder. And Chuck Taylor hit a pile driver to Kip Sabian onto a pile of chairs. Anyway, Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy comes back down to the ring. And he stopped Jimmy Havoc from sending Chuck Taylor through a ladder. Penelope Ford hit an inadvertent knee strike and a spear to her man, Kip Sabian, as she tried to hit Orange Cassidy. Cassidy hit a dive, not a very good-looking one, but he hit a dive off the post. And Tony Schiavone in here made a comment. I like Tony. Think Tony's great. Tony might be losing his mind a little bit here. Called Orange Cassidy one of the greatest managers of all time. Oh, there it is. The Solomonster Hulkamania Super Chat brother. Look at that. Thank you, Jason Nibbs. $75 drop. Good enough for the Hulkamania Super Chat. I thank you, sir. I don't wear a hat, but if I did, I would tip my hat to you now. So Tony Schiavone called Orange Cassidy one of the greatest managers in the history of wrestling. Compared him to Captain Lou Albano, J.J. Dillon, even Bobby Heenan. That's a bridge too far for me. I like Orange Cassidy and all, but let's not go overboard here. So the finish saw Chuck Taylor hit an awful waffle on Havoc down onto the pile of chairs in the ring for the win. Thankfully, he did not kick out of a pile driver onto a pile of chairs. I might have turned the show off had he done that, honestly. That would have crossed the line with me. Thankfully, he did not kick out. So I enjoyed this a lot more than I thought I would. I wasn't expecting much coming in, but this was pretty wild. I must say, as far as brawls and no DQ matches go, I thought this was pretty insane. Hey, Alvaro Sanchez with the $5 a few minutes ago says maybe Tessa Blanchard will sell a plaque with a capsule of poop and with the audio recording. I don't even want to think back to that. And we got Soggy Fries. I don't think it popped up yet, but it's coming in with the super chat. And oh, look at this. Yukio rules. $30 drop. Solomonster Hulkamania says Chuck Taylor hitting the awful waffle was awesome. It was pretty cool. I'm just happy he won with it. I would have been pissed. I really would have been pissed had he kicked out of that. But again, Soggy Fries, thank you for the super chat, says, at first I thought Lou Ferrigno was Dave Meltzer during the Bubbly Bunch segment. You know who I thought it was? Who did I think it was? Oh my God. I didn't think it was Ferrigno. I thought it was somebody else, but not Meltzer. I should have written it down. I saw him pop up on the screen and I'm looking at it. I'm like, is that who I think it is? And now I completely forgot who I thought it was. God damn it. It'll come to me at some point. Hopefully it'll come to me at some point. But I didn't think it was Lou Ferrigno. It took me a few seconds to realize who it was. I thought it was somebody completely different. Now I can't remember who it was. Anyway, we got Britt Baker, the doctor, welcoming us into her dental practice. I guess with all these different businesses that are closed right now, I guess dental offices would be open. So she welcomed us inside. We got to meet her makeup artist for the very first time. It is Rebel from TNA. Or I guess Impact. Right? All the Impact fans get very upset when I still call it TNA. Even though I just saw a picture of Musa apparently winning the TNA Championship. I guess they did some kind of throwback show. So you know what? The hell with you. It's TNA. Anyway, Britt called her Reba. And then Rebel did clarify later on. That's not her new name. She said she did clarify that my name is Rebel. And Britt got very upset when she saw Rebel talking to the camera crew. She was being a little too honest. So she took her to the back and she basically told her to do better. So then Britt Baker ripped on people who wear glasses. She says, unless you're a doctor like I am, don't try to act smart, especially if you're not. She ripped on fat people, said you need to suck it in for photos. She said, for all, and I quote, for all you cows out there, Photoshop and filters are your friends. And she showed a photoshopped image of her with Tony Schiavone that looked like Tony gained about 30 or 40 pounds. He looked pregnant. At least I think it was photoshopped. After this quarantine, I think we're all going to look like Schiavone did in this photo. And she ripped on all of the snaggletooth people. She says, don't smile. Not only is it uncomfortable for you, it's uncomfortable for the rest of us. I have turned a corner with Britt Baker with these promos. She is and I mean this in the nicest way, she is a fantastic bitch. She really is. I have turned a corner with the good doctor. We had Shawn Spears beating Baron Black with a sharpshooter. I don't really have anything. I don't have much else to say about it. Could pretty much put that on a Shawn Spears t-shirt. Shawn Spears. I don't have anything else to say about it. We had Marko Stunt against Mr. Brodie Lee. Marko Stunt against Mr. Brodie Lee. Brodie Lee is 40 years old. Doesn't look a day over 37. Marko Stunt is 23. Doesn't look a day over 12. Marko went for a dive through the ropes early on. Lee caught him, set him down, gave him a super kick. For the finish, we had Marko on the ropes. Jumps off the ropes. They're in the ring now. He jumps off the ropes. Lee catches him with a tilt-a-whirl bossman slam. That looked pretty cool. The tilt-a-whirl bossman slam. Well, I guess you would call it the old Abyss black hole slam. Basically, that's what it was, right? Isn't that what the black hole slam was? A tilt-a-whirl bossman slam. And then Brodie Lee won with the sit-out powerbomb. So there were some people thinking that maybe this was going to lead to Marko Stunt joining or being offered a spot in the Dark Order. Look, I guess it's possible they could do it sometime in the future. I never expected it. I don't know why I don't think it would be smart to break up the whole Jurassic Express thing. I wasn't sold on Marko as part of that group at the beginning. I thought Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus were fine on their own, but you know, they're probably the most popular trio in the company. Even more than Orange Cassidy and the Best Friends. We just haven't had the chance to see Luchasaurus. We haven't had the chance to see Jungle Boy because of everything that's going on. Be interesting to see if they pop up on the live show next week, which I will have a preview for here in just a little bit. I will be talking about next week's show. There it is on the screen for those of you who want to call in. It's not set up yet. I'm actually going to set it up right now. I should probably a good time to do that right now, I would say, wouldn't you think? So I'm going to set that up right now, but the number is on your screen. For those of you who want to call in, we'll take calls a little bit later on, 989-282-SOLO. That is the phone number to call, and we'll get to that here in just a little bit. I just got to log in first, make sure that everything is set up here. What's going on in the chat? I've been neglecting the chat here the last few minutes. Hope everybody's having a great night here on this Wednesday. This will be the last Dynamite stream for the month of April. When I am back on the air with you next week, it's going to be the month of May. It's already going to be the month of May. Hard to believe. All right, good. So we're all set up. So again, if you guys want to call in just a few minutes, that's the number on your screen. You should be able to do so now. So we'll get to that in a little bit. Jon Moxley. There's somebody we haven't gotten to see too much. I mean, he had that empty arena match with Jake Hager a few weeks ago. And otherwise, it's been a very uneventful title reign so far for Jon Moxley. He has been the, I was going to say, not the beneficiary, but he has been the recipient of some unfortunate luck with everything going on in the world. We haven't gotten to see him very much. There hasn't been any buzz at all around him in this title reign. And he kind of addressed that here. They did a segment with him, basically filmed. It looked like it was in the desert. So it could be in the desert. I mean, he lives out in the Vegas area. So he's outside in the desert somewhere. He's asking what happened. It says 8 weeks ago he won the AEW World title. He was on top of the world in front of, all these screaming fans. And now everybody is enjoying the show at home from their living rooms. And he said that that's okay. Bad times don't last forever. We will all be back together very soon. Next week, says Dynamite is live again, and he's going to be there. He ended this segment here by reminding us, and I said at the beginning of the stream, this was the most important takeaway from tonight's show. Jon Moxley reminded all of us, don't forget to call your grandmother. Well, my grandmother's been dead for 20 years. My other one for 25, so I can't do that. But that's a nice thought for all you people that do still have your grandparents. Lucky you. Give them a call. That's directly from the AEW champion. It's better than visiting them. It's better than visiting them, infecting them, and killing them. Call them instead. This has been a public service announcement from the Solomonster. The main event was a semifinal match, the other semifinal match in the TNT title tournament with Murder Hawk Lance Archer against Dustin Rhodes. Shout out to Soggy Fries for the $5.99 drop. Britt Baker as a role model heel. I love it. Take note, Charlotte Flair, the doctor over the Dairy Queen. I will take Charlotte in the ring and Britt Baker on the promo. Charlotte promos put me to sleep. I count sheep when I see Charlotte on my TV screen cutting a promo. It is the cure for insomnia. If you can kind of merge her in-ring skills with Britt Baker's promos of late, I think you would have probably the premier female athlete in all of wrestling right now. You could somehow just fuse the two together. Anyway, Lance Archer against Dustin Rhodes. Early on, Archer booted a chair back into Dustin's face, out on the floor. That led to a blade job. Dustin came up bleeding. He is a Rhodes, after all. He can't help himself. So from there, Archer took over. They had a couple of commercial breaks in here, but Archer took most of this. Dustin got a comeback later on, hit the code red, couldn't capitalize. He hit the snap power slam. He got more offense in on Archer than anybody has up to this point. Dustin hit the crossroads. Archer kicked out at 1. I like that. That's Cody's finisher, right? They're building to Archer and Cody. He kicked out of Cody's finisher at the count of 1, so I like that. Dustin comes off the top rope. He gets goozled. Dumped with a gigantic choke slam. Archer goes for the cover. Dustin kicks out. We had Archer walking the top rope. He did the Undertaker top rope walk, which was always very impressive to see, especially a big guy like that. But then he did something I never saw The Undertaker do. Hit a moonsault off the top rope for a near fall. Of all the crazy things I have seen The Undertaker do over the years, all those crazy dives, the one, the time he almost died at WrestleMania 25, I have never seen The Undertaker even attempt a moonsault. I've seen Big Show, back when he was the Giant in WCW. I mean, I could almost swear I saw him do a moonsault once. Maybe I'm imagining it. Can't say that I've ever seen The Undertaker do that. But Lance Archer did here, which was very impressive. So then Archer goes for the blackout. Dustin slips out. Archer hits a second chokeslam. Dustin, though, cradles him on the pinfall attempt into a near fall of his own. Archer goes over. He rips off the top turnbuckle pad, exposes the steel, and he rams Dustin face first into it. Rams him again. Rams him again. Face first into the exposed steel. And I'm thinking to myself, did I miss something here? Did I miss the announcement that this match is no disqualification? I don't think I did. How is this not a disqualification? I'm looking at Aubrey Edwards. I go, you are a terrible referee. The steel has been exposed. This man is bleeding. And he's getting his face rammed repeatedly into the steel, and she just allows it to go on. Apparently, this was no DQ. I mean, I understand that sometimes the referees are allowed a certain degree of leniency, but this seemed a little ridiculous to me. So QT Marshall, the Apple guy, he's out there on the outside. He's got a towel. I guess he's Dustin's tag team partner now. So he's out there on the floor. He's got a towel in his hand. They're teasing that he might throw in the towel. And Cody comes out. He stops him. He's not going to let QT Marshall do that. He's not going to let him throw the towel in. So what I got out of this is not only is he a terrible husband, but he's a terrible brother as well. Threw his opponent into his wife. His brother is bleeding to death in the middle of the ring. He's not going to allow his tag team partner to stop the match. Cody is just, he's just an all-around terrible person. Archer gives Dustin the claw hold, rams the back of his head into the mat repeatedly, and then pins him. For the win, he moves on now to the finals against Cody at Double or Nothing on May 23rd, live on pay-per-view. I posed this question on the podcast last weekend. I'll be tuning into Double or Nothing, and I'll be reviewing it here on the channel that night. But how many of you are going to spend the full pay-per-view price? $50, $60? I guess it depends maybe where you live or how you're getting it. But will you spend full price money for a pay-per-view in front of no audience? We're going to find out. This will be the first time AEW is having an empty arena pay-per-view, but they're going live. I don't know from where. They might be doing it at Daly's Place in Jacksonville. They're going to be live at Daly's Place for Dynamite next week. I guess they're going to abandon all of the other taped content. They have enough television taped for the next several weeks. But they are bound and determined. Tony Khan wants to go live. And now that they can run Florida, since pro wrestling is essential in the state of Florida, they're going to go live on TNT next week in front of no crowd. But I'm curious in the chat, how many of you would be willing to spend the full $50 or more for this pay-per-view? Now, Dynamite, as I said, is live again next week. MJF will make his return. Jon Moxley, the AEW champion, I assume non-title, is going to be taking on Frankie Kazarian of SCU. And Chris Jericho teams up with Sammy Guevara, the Sex Gods, take on what Jericho called the Elite Idiots. Broken Matt Hardy making his in-ring Dynamite debut. And the pumpkin-headed dipshit Kenny Omega in a street fight. So again, Kenny Omega is one half of the AEW Tag Team Champions. He has been without his Tag Team Championship partner. I don't know when we're going to see Hangman Page again. You know, he's under quarantine, he's drinking at home, and he might be perfectly content to stay there. But that's a pretty cool main event. I'm looking forward to that. So we'll get some live Dynamite next week for the first time in several weeks. Cuba the Goat, thank you for the $1.99. Solomonster, who's finer, Sasha Banks or Mandy Rose? I hate these questions because now you're putting me in this very uncomfortable position. Mandy Rose is a beautiful woman. She's a beautiful woman. For those of you who don't know, I guess WWE okayed it. Mandy Rose did a 45-minute remote interview with Chris Van Vliet that went up, I believe, yesterday on Chris's YouTube channel. So I was watching part of it earlier. I didn't finish it. So if you are a Mandy Rose fan, or if you're a Chris Van Vliet fan, he's a good dude. You can go on his channel and see Mandy Rose's interview. Sasha Banks is fantastic. I think I would have to buy on both of them. You're putting me in an impossible position here. You know, I mean, come on. They're both beautiful women. Mandy Rose, though, is, you know, if you're into blondes, you know, buxom blondes, you can't go wrong with Mandy Rose. And Brian Becerra, thank you for the $10. Russo on a poll says, just got out from work and listening in the car on the way home. We're getting a lot of divided opinion on that question here in the chat. Some Sasha, some Mandy. Amazing Guy says Alexa Bliss is superior. Are you one of these Alexa stans? Is that what they're called? The people with Alexa in their profile and their avatar on Twitter. If you say the slightest thing wrong about Alexa Bliss. The army attacks. Sasha's got a lot of them too. Sasha's got them. Alexa's got them. I don't see too many from Mandy. But they're out there. And they are nuts. Let's check out the Twitter polls and see what you guys think so far of these two shows tonight. The AEW poll, there it is so far, 829 votes. About 78% thumbs up for Dynamite. 22% thumbs down. So that's a pretty good score. Shift over to NXT, about 509 votes. 62.7% thumbs up, 37.3% thumbs down. So not as good. Still pretty good, but not as good. So again, if you have not voted yet, I don't know what the hell you're waiting for. At Solomonster on Twitter. Let your voices be heard. I want to know what you guys thought of these shows. In the chat, I want your comments down below when this video goes up. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't already done so. Appreciate the hell out of you for it. Gavin White, thank you for the $2. Says thanks for everything you do and stay healthy. I'm trying. I had to go food shopping the other day. I felt like I was taking my life in my own hands. Had some guy standing right behind me, no mask, coughing all over the place. I would have slapped him, but then I would have had to touch him. So, anyway, Chris Quillman. I see Chris Quillman here before I get to the calls. Has a super chat coming in before you guys even see it. The $5 drop says, I think Cody versus Darby should have been the main event. Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean, maybe they wanted to do it this way because Cody, they wanted Cody to come back out, to stop QT Marshall from throwing in the towel. I just feel like, I'll say this much. Of the two semifinal matches that we did get tonight, the match that was more predictable as far as outcome coming in was clearly the Lance Archer match. Dustin Rhodes stood no chance, less than zero chance of winning against Lance Archer. Cody and Darby, I think, could have gone either way. And again, if it were up to me, I probably would have gone with Darby. I think it would have surprised people who figured Cody's a shoo-in, right? That's the match they're building to. I think Darby and Archer could be a hell of a match. The size differential between them, but I think Darby's got the scrappy babyface thing. He falls short in the end. Or, because I think Darby's a great fit for that TNT title, you have them go to the pay-per-view. You have Cody cost Archer the match. I mean, it's a little cheap, I guess, because then Darby needs help, but Darby wins the championship. Cody and Archer don't need a belt. And that kind of fans the flames of that feud, and then you can get to Archer and Cody at, some other show. But I guess they wanted to go in a different direction. So, Miguel Sanchez, thank you for the sub. Always like getting new subs here on the channel. Mundane Wrestling Butthole. That's his name. Mundane Wrestling Butthole. I have to repeat that here. Thank you for the $2. He says, Alexa stans are the Cowboys fans of wrestling. Magician Sapphire, thank you for the $10. I wish it was Darby moving forward. No offense to Cody. And Carlos Lugo with the $10. My buddies and I have endless discussions on who is the hottest girl in wrestling. Alexa Bliss, JoJo, Mandy Rose. What say you? Again. Why is nobody mentioning Penelope Ford? Am I alone in this? I would say, Katrina, but Lucha Underground's not a thing anymore. Unfortunately. I wish it was. I do miss Lucha Underground. Let's go to the calls here. See what you guys think. Let us go to 502. I believe this might be Chris. Chris, is that you?
Yeah, what's up, Mr. Monster?
What's going on, Chris?
Nothing much. Just caught the show. I know I was a little late last week. I was a little late this week, too. I was a little behind on it. But, I finally caught that ending. And it's interesting because, this whole build-up for the championship is a little predictable. but at the same time, I feel like they've been keeping our interest.
Well, predictable doesn't necessarily mean bad. I just think you could
right,
have,
yeah.
you could have gone either way with Cody and Darby. They're going to go with the Cody and Archer match now, and if they want it on pay-per-view, then they kind of have to, because they don't have pay-per-views every month. They're not going to be back on pay-per-view until the end of August. So it's fine.
Yeah, and I'm going to go on and get the pay-per-view. If anything, I it's kind of like my way of supporting AEW. I mean, they provided us with great shows before. They provide us with, I even think the YouTube channel is providing some good, free entertainment for right now. But I mean, I'll get the pay-per-view just to support it alone anyway. But I'm legitimately, I'm interested in seeing what happens, seeing where it goes and stuff. I'm just curious though, if I know you have to get the pay-per-view, you have to watch it because you got to review it. But if you weren't, would you still pay the $50 for it?
Yeah, I think I would. And I think what helps AEW is the fact that they don't have the monthly events. If there was a monthly AEW pay-per-view, I'd have to pick and choose. I think the ones that just look the most appealing on paper to me. The fact that they only have the 4 events each year and they try to load all 4 of those up, even though I have no idea what the rest of this card, which is kind of strange. I mean, we're about a month away, and the only thing that we know is that we're going to have the finals of this tournament, which is interesting because it's a TNT title tournament. You would think maybe they'd save that for a TNT show, but they're doing it on pay-per-view. Aside from that, we really don't know, right? They haven't announced or hinted, I don't think, at any other match. I have no idea who Moxley is going to face. My best guess would be MJF. He's been announced for the show next week. Maybe he comes out after Moxley's match against, was it Kazarian, I think he's facing. So, yeah, I mean, other than that, I couldn't even tell you what the matches are going to be. So that's a little strange, but yeah, I'd buy it.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it's a little. I'm with you. I'm curious of what they're gonna have, but I don't know. I feel like they haven't really let us down as far as their product goes. So I feel like, I have faith that they'll make it interesting enough or entertaining enough to at least make me feel like I got my money's worth out of it. They seem like they care about that.
Yeah, I agree. Anything else before we move on here?
No, I just wanted to get your opinion on, if you didn't have to review it, what you would do. So you answered my question in full.
Yeah. No, I would. And, but there are other shows that if I did not have to review them for the podcast, I absolutely would not be watching anymore.
Right.
And I'll leave it at that.
I understand.
And I'll leave it at that.
Right. All right. Well, take care. Be safe. Wash those hands.
Always. All right. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. So that was Chris, one of our super chatters tonight here coming on in. Let's go to another one of our esteemed callers. Why don't we go out to the West Coast to 702.
Hello. Hey, Solomonster.
Hey.
So I just want to let you guys know that, again, our major is still a fucking idiot. Hope you can swear here.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Can we all agree that, like, most women pro wrestlers are pretty fucking hot? But there's no love to Kyrie or Hikaru Shida. Just saying.
Oh, yeah, you know what? I always sleep on her. Hikaru Shida, who's been a favorite in the chat over these weeks. Every time I forget to mention her, if I'm rattling off, some other names of people in AEW, they always remind me, don't forget about Shida. And Shida, I started following her on Twitter because she's under quarantine like everybody is. And she's been posting these like videos of her doing like these workouts and stuff. I have become a very big Hikaru Shida fan. And she is very talented in the ring as well. So I have to remember to mention her more often. But yes, Shida is worth mentioning.
the only one that is not very talented is Nia Jax for obvious reasons. But I got a question about the tournament.
Yes.
I didn't really like how the booking itself went, and I feel like the name that Dustin or Cody or Lance, they should not have been there in the tournament. I feel like it was a waste of space for guys like Jimmy Havoc, any of the best friends, Mark Stunt, if you want to do like a decent squash match within the tournament. And and my other one is what are your thoughts about since there's a lot of PWG talent within AEW, maybe they could bring Bola to TNT.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. I don't see why they would. I don't see what AEW really gets out of it. I mean, they have enough talent on their own show that we haven't had the chance to see over these last several weeks because of everything that's going on. So I wouldn't worry so much about that. Plus, I think Bola, it's just, I don't know that would work. Well, I mean, I guess it could if you divided it up over 2 episodes, but I just don't see what AEW gains from it. I know what PWG does, but I don't see how that really works. I'd much rather, I still say, I would much rather see some kind of working arrangement between New Japan and AEW, or at least an open exchange of talent on occasion, because I think that could, New Japan is still searching for a TV deal here in this country. So to get some exposure for them on TNT wouldn't be a bad thing for them. And to get some of that talent on these AEW shows, for all the people who love to complain, oh, where's the Kenny Omega from New Japan? I missed that guy. What happened to him? Imagine getting that Kenny Omega and some of these other New Japan stars making cameos here and there, even if just for some tag matches or singles matches to help put over some of the AEW guys. And when I say put over, I don't mean that, the New Japan guys would come and just job every match. You can put somebody over without actually losing. There are ways to do that. I'd much rather see that than Bola on TV. Let's go to 813. You're on the air. 813, going once. 813, going twice. Hey, what's going on?
Hey, Jason. Hey, I'm a big fan of yours for a long time. I love you, Jason Sullivan.
Thank you. Who am I talking to?
Elton Doors from Brandon.
I couldn't understand a word you said, but what's your question?
I got one question. Which one, as far as time-wise, which one was the most embarrassing thing? Brock Lesnar's 125 or CM Punk's 214?
Brock Lesnar's 125 or CM Punk's 214? I have no idea what that means. What does that mean? I should have asked him before I hung up on him. Brock Lesnar's 125 or CM Punk's 214? I mean, in the chat, help me out here. I mean, am I missing something here? What does that mean? Brock Lesnar's 125 or CM Punk's 214? Is that like the... I don't even know what that is. I'm going to rely on the chat here to try to fill me in on what that means. And then I'll try to come back to your question, because I have no idea what that's supposed to mean. Oh, okay, UFC fight. Verbal Souls in the chat thinks he was referring to his UFC. Okay, so that at least would make sense. Who did Lesnar face, though? 125. Was that the... what fight was that? I don't remember what fight that was. I'm going to say Punk, though, because Punk, hey, look, he had more guts than I would getting in the octagon, but Punk got his clock cleaned. So, I mean, it was pretty embarrassing when Brock lost, too, but I'm trying to remember who it was that Brock stepped in there with. Was that Shane Carwin? I don't remember. Anyway, I'll go with CM Punk. I could not, for the life of me, I could not figure out what he was referring to. Mundane Wrestling Butthole is back. Lance Archer or Wardlow to be stuck in quarantine with? These questions. I don't know. I mean, Lance Archer, I don't know. I don't want to be stuck in quarantine with either one of them. That would be a total sausage fest in quarantine. I'd rather be quarantined by myself. And Alvaro Sanchez, thank you for the $2. These callers, he says. Well, come on now. Let's be nice. Let's be nice. Sometimes people get nervous. Let's go to 646. You're on the air.
Hey, how you doing, Jason? Malik here from Queens, New York. I know you're in Brooklyn. Just first of all, how you holding up?
I'm doing well, Malik. How are you holding up there? What part of Queens?
Over here in Hollis, Queens,
Hollis.
not too far from Jamaica.
Hollis. I always remember Christmas in Hollis. Always reminds me of that song.
Oh yeah, it's a classic.
That's right.
It sucks, but it's a classic. I'm joking. Just two quick questions for you. The first question would be, how far do you think the Brodie Lee character can go in AEW? And the second question, I know it's just a rumor and things like that, but I was just really curious. I read the whole article earlier about WWE possibly selling to ESPN.
Yeah, what was the, because he dropped out there on the first, what was the first question again? Just run that by me one more time.
No, the first question was, how far do you think the Brodie Lee character can go in AEW?
Brodie Lee. All right, so I'll let you go, but I'll take that one first, and then I'll tackle the second one, because I've gotten a few questions about that second one. I think Brodie Lee can go farther than he is now. He's still relatively new. They're still, I think, kind of trying to find I don't know if position is the right word, or just where the story is going with him being the sort of abusive leader of this group. I think he's really been stifled. I think you could say that about a few people by everything that's been going on. It just kind of feels like they're almost in like a holding pattern without the crowds and without their full roster. And so they have a limited roster, so they send Brodie Lee out there for a few squash matches. We haven't seen him in a really competitive match yet. He hasn't had the chance to go out there and have the kind of match that he had with, you know, Dolph Ziggler, that big ladder match they had in WWE, which was probably one of his best matches, or Randy Orton. You know, he had some of those big matches in WWE. We haven't had the chance to see him in a match like that yet in AEW. I think he can go higher. I think he's at the TNT title level. Do I see him as AEW champion? No. I don't see him at that level. Not with this gimmick and the way things, you know, the way he's positioned and everything. I don't see it. I just don't see it. I think he's a solid mid to upper mid card guy. I think he can have some success as a mid card champion. As a world champion, though, I don't see it. I just think there's something there that's missing, just in terms of the character right now. As far as the second question, yeah, I've gotten asked about this a few times. I guess it started with Dutch Mantel, Zeb Coulter on his Twitter. Why he would even go on his Twitter and put this out there, because you knew as soon as he said this, people were going to buy, oh, this is really happening. He must have heard it from inside sources. You know, the way he phrased it, it's like, oh, I heard, like he heard from someone. And then if you read the replies, people were saying, like asking him, and then he was like, yeah, no, I just heard it as a rumor. Like, why would you even put that out there unless you heard it from a solid source? Because now I see websites, the usual suspects, who I won't name, running with it as if it's legitimate news. I don't think it's legitimate at all. I think it's bullshit. I don't think there's anything to it. Could Vince McMahon sell one day? Yeah, I think he could. Is ESPN and Fox... When would ESPN and Fox come together for a joint deal? What are they going to do, share it? They're going to rip WWE in half? You take this half, I'll take the other half? Why would ESPN and Fox even want to be in bed together? Just because they have television contracts with the company? That doesn't mean they're going to go in on a joint deal to buy the WWE. Plus, we're in the middle of a pandemic. Companies are trying to shed costs. They're cutting people. They're furloughing people. You really think this is the time that one or two big companies are going to spend billions of dollars? They're going to spend billions of dollars on anything? They're going to buy WWE for what, $3 billion now in the middle of a pandemic when companies are scaling back? This makes no sense. I don't know where this rumor started. I don't know if he started it himself. Maybe he's losing his marbles. I have no idea. I could see the company being sold one day. but Vince McMahon ain't selling to ESPN and Fox in the month of May. That's the story. In the month of May, ESPN and Fox might buy WWE. No, they're not. Don't pay attention to these people. Please. Please don't pay attention to these people. Frankie Mattis, thank you for the $5. Says he might have meant which longer WWE title reign was more impressive, Brock or Punk. Now, I think he was talking about UFC fights. That would have been my second guess. But yeah, I'm pretty sure he was talking about UFC fights. Let us go. Let's see, where do we want to go here? Let's go to 626.
Hey, Solomonster.
Hey.
It's Benjamin.
Hey, Benjamin.
About 2 weeks ago, I called you, and I was reading the comments. So I want to apologize, sir, for not allowing you an opportunity to speak. During that time, I mentioned about my dog, being allergic, and I was just trying to be, polite and professional and just, basically make sure that other callers got a chance. So I apologize for not allowing you to speak, sir.
You don't have to apologize for anything. It's fine with me. It's no problem.
All right. Sorry, I just everyone was telling me I need to slow down. But so far, a lot of the people have been kind of answering this, have been questioning this, have been asking you the same questions I had in my head. But since we're talking about the state of Florida, what's really interesting is that obviously Florida is going to be one of the first states that are slowly reopening, quote unquote, the economy. Now, I'm a big theme parks fan, and what's really interesting is that right now, I believe both Universal and Disney are sending some of their hardcore fan surveys about how comfortable they will be going into theme parks. And I'm kind of curious, I live in Los Angeles, sir, and our respective mayor, Mayor Eric Garcetti, basically said that, live events within LA and LA County won't be happening till 2021 possibly. So I want to know your reactions about, possibly going to wrestling events after this pandemic and what safety measures could we possibly see. Other than that, I'm glad that you're doing well, sir. And yeah, thank you for your time.
Thanks for calling in. I appreciate that. Yeah, I saw that Garcetti made that announcement, which is important because WrestleMania is scheduled for LA. Or Hollywood next year, and he's talking about there probably potentially not being any large mass gatherings for up to a year, which would include that period that WrestleMania would be taking place, which would mean no WrestleMania in LA next year. I don't know when everything is going to reopen. Nobody knows. There's talk about some states are slowly already reopening in May and June, and I don't see this going away anytime soon. And in California, if they're openly talking about, taking up to a year before they allow mass gatherings, then that's it. Game over. There's no WrestleMania in LA unless they decide to move it to a different state, or they just end up back at the Performance Center in 2021. So that's going to be an interesting situation to follow. It's too early. It's still April. It's literally a year away. So nobody knows anything for sure. As far as what these events could look like as things begin to open up a little bit more, I think what you're looking at, and Vince McMahon touched on this a little bit in the investor call last week. He was talking about, I don't think that, the live event business as we knew it that we were in before may look very different when things, quote, get back to normal. And I think what you're probably looking at are people who are spaced out, which means you won't have people on top of each other, sitting in seats right next to each other like they have traditionally, which I'll be honest, is okay with me. If they want to space people out 3-4 seats down or 5 seats down from me, hey, I love it. That's great. Fine with me. But I think that's what you're potentially looking at. But it's not just who's to your left and who's to your right. It's who's in front of you. It's who's directly behind you. If there's somebody sitting behind me and they cough, they're coughing right on me. So I think at least for a while, when we get to a point where people are allowed back into these buildings, you're not going to be able to have as many people in these buildings because you're going to have to space people out, and that's going to cut down on the number of seats that are in use. So it's going to look very different on TV. It might sound different if you don't have as many people in there. I could see them taking people's temperature as they enter the stadiums. You know, with that little temperature gun that they put to your head. It looks like they're going to blow your brains out. I could see them doing that. They check people's bags when they come in for security reasons. You know, so this could be the new way of life for a while. Can't keep people out of these buildings forever. Got to let them back in at some point. But they're going to have to put certain rules in place to make people comfortable enough to want to go back. There's going to be a lot of people who don't want to go back. I already got a question from somebody saying, hey, if WrestleMania is allowed to take place in LA next year, are you going to have a meetup? I'm not going to WrestleMania. I may never go to WrestleMania again at this rate. I'm not going to WrestleMania. What are you, out of your mind? I mean, I've been waiting for WrestleMania to come to Vegas anyway. My guess is they're going to probably give Tampa a make good in 2022. So the earliest I would even see Mania coming to Vegas is probably 2023. What would that be, WrestleMania 39? I would consider that. But a big stadium show like WrestleMania, I have absolutely no interest. I don't want any part of that. And even arena shows. It's going to be a long time before I feel comfortable going to an arena show. I'm quite content to watch at home on my laptop, which is how I watch these shows. I have a 48-inch television downstairs in the living room. I don't even watch it. My brother watches it. I watch these pay-per-views on my 15-inch laptop screen so I can go back and forth and keep notes on these things. That's how I watch these pay-per-views. I'm perfectly content to do that. Sports arenas, movie theaters, no thank you. No thank you. It's not worth it. Not worth the risk. That's how I feel. Kevin, oh my God, thank you for the $5. And Carlos Lugo with the $10 drop. I read that someone I don't remember, maybe Triple H, said that going forward, we're probably looking at a 2-day WrestleMania. What do you think about this? I was not hot on the idea for a very long time. And having seen the 2-night WrestleMania this year, I will say that it worked out a lot better than it would have if they did an 8-hour WrestleMania at the Performance Center in one night. You couldn't do that. You can't. I could barely tolerate these 3-hour shows on Mondays at the PC. These shows, CM Punk was right when he made that comment a few weeks ago. These shows are almost unwatchable. They really are. I'm happy for Drew McIntyre. He looks like he's having a good time when he's out there. He looks the part. I feel bad for him that he's, being shortchanged here with this title run. And I hope he holds on to it long enough to, be able to enjoy full crowds when the crowds do come back. Because it really sucks for him. But these shows are unwatchable. They really are. Now imagine 8 hours of WrestleMania inside of an empty Performance Center. It doesn't work. So for this year, I thought it was the smart way to go. I could envision that going forward. I am more open to the idea now than I would have been a year or two ago. But how is that going to work? If you have people coming in for WrestleMania, you're going to charge them full price both nights. Are people going to pay double what they would normally pay to go to WrestleMania? Or are you going to force them to pick and choose which night they want to go? Well, what if you have 5 really big matches on a WrestleMania card and somebody wants to see all 5 of them and they feel like, man, I'm going to go to night 1. I'm going to miss these matches on night 2. Or I'm going to go on night 2 and I'm going to miss this match on night 1. You'd have to announce in advance, which they didn't do this year, exactly what nights, which matches are going to air and when. And it's going to make it harder, I think, for people to decide, well, do I want to go to this? Do I want to spend double the money to go both nights? Seems kind of crazy to me. But you could do that. You could have one night where you have 60,000 people in the stadium and the next night you have 30,000. So there's a lot of decisions that have to go into that. But I'm more open to the idea now. Turtlehead with the $5. Shout out to my clients. Oh, he's got client. Really now. He's got clients. Recon Sun 21 and the return of Fart Phone Guy Kid Cash. That comes from Turtlehead. So thank you to him. And Dry Chicken Without Flavor. with the $5. Moxley versus Zack Sabre Jr. versus Sonata for the IWGP United States Championship. Zack Sabre Jr. winning the title to revisit the Sonata-Zack feud for a build-up to Wrestle Dynasty. Yeah, Wrestle Dynasty, I'm not sold that this is going to happen. I know they desperately want to run a show at Madison Square Garden. I mean, they've got the date, August 22nd. It's locked in. I don't know. I don't know if I see that happening. Look, I live in New York, okay? I can't speak for the people who live in Louisiana, Nebraska, Kansas, Ohio, other countries. All I know is I happen to live in the one state in this country that has been ravaged the most by this virus. We have the worst numbers of any state in this entire country. And there's some states much bigger than New York. You've got California, you've got Texas. New York has been hit the hardest of anyone. And Madison Square Garden happens to be in New York. So despite whatever may be happening in your part of the country, and I'm not talking about you specifically, but wherever you may live, just keep that in mind. New York is the hardest hit state. New York is probably going to be the last state to truly, fully reopen. Is that going to happen by August 22nd? Because I don't see it. I live here. I don't see it. That's something New Japan's going to have to figure. I know they want to run that show. I was looking forward to going to the show. I ain't going to the show now, but, I'm not convinced that they're going to be able to run that show. I think it's pretty far-fetched to think that it's going to happen. 813, you're on the air.
Jason.
Hey, who am I talking to?
The guy who I was talking about the CM Punk question.
The guy? Say that again?
This is Elton, the guy who said about the CM Punk Brock Lesnar question.
Oh, Elton. Yeah, yes. So were you referring to the UFC fights?
I'm talking about as far as Brock versus Goldberg versus his embarrassing 125 and CM Punk's fight 214. Which one was the most embarrassing time-wise for both superstars, Brock or CM Punk?
But the CM Punk one, you said that's 2 minutes and 14 seconds that you're referring to as UFC fight?
Yeah, the UFC fight.
Okay. Well, I still go with Punk, though, because that was, so you're comparing a pro wrestling match, though, to a UFC fight. So to me, it's kind of unfair to kind of pick Brock just because the Punk thing was real, the Brock thing wasn't. Which was more embarrassing? I still would say Punk, probably. That still would be my choice.
Okay. Then I have because I'm sorry for confusing you.
No,
I apologize.
that's okay. That's all right. I figured the chat would. I figured I could always look to the chat to guide me, and of course, the chat let me down. So, what are you going to do?
And I'm a big fan of yours for the last 6 years, Jason Solomon.
That's awesome.
And I lost my grandmother a year ago, so you're the only person that kind of cheered me up.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that. And look, I'm glad that you can find some happiness in the show. I think that's awesome.
And I have another one. I think it was one of your old videos about the Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And mine is The Rock, Austin, Bret Hart, and Daniel Bryan.
Interesting. I don't think I've heard that combination before. Okay. Yeah, I mean, mine... Again, I think if I'm remembering, because I've been asked so many Mount Rushmore questions about world champions, IC, all-time Hall of Famers. Yeah, my Mount Rushmore, I don't think it changes too much. I mean, mine probably looks, I would say probably Hogan, Austin. I'd say... I would say Hogan, Austin, Rock, Cena, just because it kind of represents... I could see that being what most people would look at of a certain age. Maybe if they're like my age. If you're a little older, you might say Bruno. Look, everyone's is going to be different. Yeah, mine would probably have Bret, because I'm a huge Bret Hart fan. So, Daniel Bryan, though, on Mount Rushmore, you're the first person, I think, who's mentioned his name as being on their Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, and I heard a while back that you was at WrestleMania 33, and that was my first WrestleMania for a long time. So I was like, man, I wish I was meeting Solomon right now. So
Well, hey, one day, if you WrestleMania 40 or something, if I ever decide to go back to WrestleMania, or if there's a big event that comes to New York, we can maybe try to make that work.
okay. And keep up the good work, Jason Solomon. You do an excellent job. You're the best in the world. And I will keep listening to your YouTube every single day.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Elton. No worries on the question. We got that confusion cleared up, so I'm glad we were able to figure that out. See, everybody in the chat, you were all wrong. Everyone's saying, "Oh, he's talking about their UFC fight." You were half right. You were half right. Let's go to Let's try. Why don't we go with 240? 240, you're on the air.
Hey, Solomonster, how you doing? This is Tom in Maryland. Here.
Hey, Tom.
How you doing? I got a couple of things. Are you sick of Michael Cole's commentating, or what's your?
I've already answered. Yes. The answer is yes.
Yes. Yeah. Jerry Lawler. Oh God, he's so tasteless. His little jokes from 20 years ago when he's at the table. I can't watch it. I got to watch it on mute.
Well, Samoa Joe is back, so it looks like they're only going to use Lawler for contract signings and stuff. So we might not have to listen to him anymore on commentary.
Speaking of the contract signings, do you think they should come up with something else to do with the typical? You got the table in the ring. Obviously, something's going to happen. I mean, the contract signing thing is so played out. It's so boring. It's the same thing every time they have a contract.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tired concept. I liked what AEW did that one time when they had the weigh-in. I think it was Jericho and Moxley before the Revolution show. I think you could do a weigh-in type thing, maybe give more of like a fight feel. Contract signings you could still do, but you don't have to do them for every match, or at least every main event match, every pay-per-view, every month. It's the same formula. They've done a few contract signings that are pretty good, like in the back. They did one once with AJ and Nakamura that I enjoyed. I agree. It's a tired concept. I would give it a rest for a while. Do a weigh-in or come up with something else. You got 30 writers that you employ. Well, I guess now maybe it's a little less than 30 with everyone getting fired, but you got an army of writers in that company. You mean to tell me that you can't come up with something other than a contract signing, huh? What do they pay you for? Come up with something different. I agree. I think that's a great idea. Oh, let's see. Chris is gloating in the chat right now that I took his call earlier. Don't gloat. Nobody likes a show off. That's why nobody likes Dolph Ziggler. Let's go to 404. You're on the air.
Hey, Solomonster.
Hey.
Man here from Massachusetts. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Great. I really liked tonight's show. It was well paced. I liked the Best Friends versus Fabian and Jimmy Havoc tag match. And I don't know if anybody else noticed, but they sometimes were calling Cody as Cody Rhodes. Is like the trademark through that they applied for? What's going on there?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think what happened with the Cody Rhodes thing, and I said this earlier, is that WWE allowed the trademark to lapse on the full name. They had 6 months after it lapsed to still file something to renew. They didn't do that. And as soon as it expired, Cody swooped in and he applied for it. He applied for it 2 weeks ago. And then tonight I hear Dasha say Cody Rhodes, even though the announcers were still saying Cody. But remember, their commentary was taped weeks ago. So hearing Dasha say that was kind of interesting. Maybe it means nothing. Maybe she slipped up. And it's just ironic, that Cody happened to recently apply for that trademark. He said before he doesn't mind going by Cody. Kind of forges his own identity. But if he gets the trademark, I'm going to guess that we'll start to hear Cody Rhodes mentioned a lot more on TV. But WWE is opposing a lot of those WCW trademarks that he had put in for, like Battle Bowl, the Match Beyond. They had been given an extension to file opposition, and I guess they just did. they finally got around to it. So it's going to get a little messy between the two sides, and we'll see who wins out in the end. We will see who wins out in the end. 850.
Solomonster, what's going on, man?
What's up?
I think you know who this is. At least you should.
Is this farting phone guy?
You're damn right.
I knew it. I could hear the fart in the background. I knew it.
I want to address a couple things first. Considering I'm living in Florida and they're talking about reopening things, no. Stay your ass at home. Do not come to Disney World. Do not come to Florida. Stay where you are. We don't need anybody else here. We don't want anybody else here. Stay where you are. Disney is closed forever as of right now.
Well, there
don't
it is.
Come here.
There it is from farting phone guy. You heard it here first.
Second thing, you need a phone screener like super bad because some of these calls, man, it just makes me want to pull my hair out.
Well, some people get nervous, or forget their question when they go through. It's happened to the best of us. Look, look.
I get it.
I'll share a very quick story with you. So many years ago, when I went to my first Monday Night Raw, the reason I got those tickets, I won them from a radio station. This is back when wrestling was cool. See, wrestling now is not cool. But back then, radio stations would give away tickets. People would be all excited. So the local radio station here was doing a giveaway. If your caller number, whatever it was, 95, you get the tickets. Well, I got through. I was caller 95. And what they would do typically is when you would win, they record that. And they put that on the air so everybody could hear how excited you are. And they ask, oh, who am I talking to? And the person would be like, oh, it's Mike. And they'd be like, hey, Mike, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody what you just won? Oh, I won tickets from 95, whatever. So I get through because I'm getting a busy signal. I call back and I get a person on the phone. They're like, stand by. And then they go, I hear the DJ come on. He goes, who is this? And I proceed to recite my entire name, first name and last name, which sounded awful because it sounded like I was in court or something. And then I could hear the guy, he kind of like paused, like he was a little shocked I read my entire name. And, whatever, he asked me a question.
Waiting on the social.
Yeah, I was going to give my address, my social security number. And so I was waiting after that. I go, oh, put the radio on. I'm going to be on. They're going to play my thing. And they never played it. And then my brother's laughing at me. He goes, you're an idiot. I go, why? He goes, you said your full name. Of course he's not going to put that on the air. Because I got nervous. I didn't know what to do. I was so excited. Sometimes people get nervous and they say stupid shit. What are you going to do?
I understand. One last thing before you let me go. I got to address some people in the chat here. Apparently, Mr. Reconsan, or whatever his name is, 21, has claimed the Solomonster Sounds Off title that I never relinquished. And apparently Turtlehead is his advocate. Mr. Stone Mexican never showed up, so I'm going to cut a Finn Balor-esque promo. I'm going to cut a Finn Balor-esque promo.
Stone Mexican.
And I'm going to challenge for the Solomonster Sounds Off title.
Busy right now.
I don't blame him.
Well, I think Stone Mexican might have something to say about this, but I want no part of this. I am not sanctioning this. This is not an officially sanctioned match. You can all hash this out yourselves. May the best
even better.
May the best man win.
That's even better. A non-sanctioned match.
Yes, yeah, non-sanctioned match. One of my favorite TV shows of all time was The Shield, and there's an episode of The Shield where Vic Mackey, the main cop, he took these two guys, he locked them in a giant, I think it was like a dumpster or something. Like he literally locked them in a dumpster. Two drug dealers. Came back the next morning. One walked out, one didn't. I'm going to lock all of you in a dumpster. You do what you got to do, and may the best man win. I want no part of this.
All I got to say is I'm back to reclaim what was rightfully mine.
All right. I
never lost it.
I'm going to let you go. I've heard enough of this. I have heard enough of this. Let's get some real questions here before we wrap up. Let's get one or two more real questions here. No more nonsense here. Let's go to 651. I'm begging you, 651. Give me a question.
Mr. Solomonster, how are you today?
I've been better. What's going on?
Nothing much. Just to put it out there, this is Reconsent 21, but I'll be waiting on Twitter so he knows.
Good. That's what I like to hear. Settle it like men amongst yourselves.
Yeah. So my question is, do you think like Darby Allin should have fought Archer at the finals and won the title, or is it too early for Darby to rise that high?
No, I don't think it's early at all. I think if anything, it's overdue. Darby's probably the most popular guy in the entire company, or one of the top three. I think you could have done a finish where Cody costs Archer the match, puts more heat on their feud. Darby gets the championship, and he gets to defend the TNT title.
No problem. And then shout out to my advocate, Turtlehead. Love you. And then just one quick last question, just to give you shit. Who do you hate more as a Mets fan, Carlos Beltran or you-know-who Larry?
Carlos Beltran or Larry? Oh boy, Chipper Jones. Look, Carlos Beltran broke my heart. Larry is just an ass. Great player. I have great respect for old Chipper. Ultimate troll. Named his son Shea after Shea Stadium. I gotta go with Larry. Let's see here. Maybe we'll end with this. Let's go to 213. You are on the air.
Good evening, Solomonster.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Yes.
How you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, Luis. How are you?
Good. Well, I've got one question for you.
Sure.
Can you name 5 wrestlers that are from Los Angeles?
Can I name 5 wrestlers that are from Los Angeles? I probably could if I had time to think about it. I mean, I guess Hogan was from Venice Beach. Does that count?
That counts.
Well, there you go. He's the most popular wrestler of them all. Venice Beach, California. I can't think of any more off the top of my head. You'd have to give me some time to think about that.
I'll give you some time.
Well, I'm not going to do it right now. Just give me some time, and I'll come back at you later on.
Okay.
All right. Anything else, Luis?
No. I remember now. I am in the know of things right now with what's happening here in Los Angeles with coronavirus. It's not looking really good. I still say WrestleMania does not happen here in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty good guess. I said the same thing a few minutes ago. I agree. I think it's a long shot at this point.
Yeah. All right. Have a nice evening, Solomonster.
Thank you, Luis. Always good to hear from you, and I am sure I will be seeing you in the Facebook group. Be safe and take care. That was Luis. Luis Alejandro. Calling in from Los Angeles, California. He's a big fan of Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. You know how I know that? Because he's always posting about Championship Wrestling from Hollywood in the group. And the only person I can think of off the top of my head to come out of Championship Wrestling from Hollywood who would be a name right now would be Eli Drake. Back when he was Shawn Ricker. See? I know my Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. That's why they pay me the big bucks. They don't pay me the big bucks. Oh boy. Luis. 516.
Solomonster? Jason?
That's me.
Oh, what's up, boss? I just wanted to ask you 2 quick questions.
Sure.
As a fellow Met fan, what do you think of the whole restarting the season and redoing divisions and stuff like that? And I know a lot of people got released from WWE, and you don't want to bring everybody in, but should AEW bring in like Zack Ryder or whatever, the other guy, his buddy, to do something with MJF, because like he trains him. They trained MJF, you know, so they might have like a history or something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm almost positive Zack Ryder's probably going to get a shot, just because I think Cody's a big fan of his. They're good friends, and I'd be kind of shocked if he didn't end up there. I don't see him going on to some big career he didn't have in WWE, like a world champion or something like that. But he could probably, he could be a solid kind of middle of the card addition, I think. And what was the question before that?
What there's a rumor for the baseball that they're going to restart it in like a month or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they want to switch up the divisions.
Yeah, I've heard that that there's going to be like 3 divisions or something. I'm not all up to speed on exactly what this plan is going to look like. I just know that they want to get the season in. I'm not sure how that's going to work, if it's just going to be an abbreviated season, if it's going to push things back where the World Series would be later in the year. I don't know how that's all going to work logistically. If they could figure out a safe way, though, like in empty stadiums or something to get baseball back. I mean, I'm a baseball fan. I'd love to see baseball played. It would be weird in front of, empty stadiums. But if they could find a safe way to do it that makes sense, then, I'm interested. I just don't know exactly what form that's going to take. The whole thing is kind of a mess.
Yeah, it's so weird watching wrestling with no fans. I love what AEW does with they have the wrestlers out there making noise, but I don't know. With baseball, I don't really hear the crowd. I like the commentators and stuff like that. I think it'll be easier to watch baseball with no fans than it is to watch wrestling.
Yeah, no, that I agree. I think it'll be more tolerable. So if they could find a good way to do it that makes sense, then I'm all for it.
All right. Thanks. I'm a really big fan, and that's all really I wanted to say.
Awesome. Well, thank you for calling in. You'll have to try calling in again next week.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Have a good night. All right, guys. I'm going to do... why don't we do one more, and then we will try to wrap things up here, unless I choose to do another one. 740.
What's up, S.A.?
Whoa.
Hey, home.
Oh, my God. Who am I talking to?
You're talking to Eduardo Holmes.
Eduardo Holmes. What's going on, Eduardo Holmes?
So, S.A., my question for you is, what is your stance on who the next championship challenger is going to be? Do you think MJF takes the title from Moxley? And quick buy or sell, Holmes, who do you think they wasted more monster heel potential on, Vader in 96 or Braun Strowman in 2017? Orale!
Well, let's see. I'll start with that one, Eddie. I'll start with that one last. Vader or Braun Strowman? Well, I mean, they screwed Braun Strowman over. I mean, now he's the champion and all that. I could give 2 craps about Braun Strowman. They definitely screwed the pooch on him, though, in 2017. I got to go with Vader, though, man. And I know that they may have had their reasons for it. Vader, he had some injuries, and his weight did get a little out of control there towards the end, though. Not when he first came in 96, though. He was a killer, in the Royal Rumble. He was beating everybody up. He was a monster. And then he went away. He had shoulder surgery. Physically, he was never really the same. His physical peak probably was early to mid-90s, honestly, WCW, when he was having those great matches with Sting and Cactus Jack. But you had this monster character in Vader. And to not put the championship on him was a sin. It really was. There's no reason not to take the title off him at SummerSlam that year and try to give him a monster run with the championship. So instead, they had Shawn Michaels beat him. Then Sid beat him. That was it. He was never the same after that. So Vader, there was more wasted potential, I think, in not going with him as a heel champion than what they did with Braun. So a nice history in this company, though, of dropping the ball with a whole bunch of different people. Those are just 2 examples. You can come up with more than just those 2. Magician Sapphire, I'm just playing catch up here. Thank you for the $10 earlier. Says, I just recently lost my mom to you know what, but your show, especially these questions, put a smile on my face. That's horrible. I'm sorry to hear that. That is terrible, Magician Sapphire. I did not know that. But I'm very happy that you are finding some comfort in these shows. I hear that from a few people, that they do enjoy it. Helps take their mind off it. So hopefully I'm doing that tonight, especially with some of these calls. But thank you for the drop. I appreciate that. New Mommy sent in $1.99. Love your Dark Side of the Ring reviews. Well, I'm glad you enjoy that, because I enjoyed doing them. We're going to have another big one this weekend on Dr. D and the slap heard round the world. Got a lot of thoughts on some of these people in that special. Very few people who actually came across as likable in that special. Dr. D probably was the most likable out of anybody. The other people, not so much. And Dried Chicken Without Flavor with the $7. Leva Bates, Hikaru Shida, Riho, Chris Statlander, and Big Swole. All natural beauty. They have a lot of beautiful women in that company. They do. They have a lot of beautiful women in that company. I will not argue or debate that point. Why don't we do one more? And then we will wrap up, I promise, after this last one from 903.
Hey, Solomonster, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, cool. I'm surprised I got through. Hey, I love your show. I'm glad that AEW exists, because it seemed like for a while WWE was killing you. And I have two really short, simple questions. The first one is it a dream match, Orange Cassidy versus the guy that has that radio show, Jim Cornette? And then the other question was, who is one person, celebrity or otherwise, anybody, that you could throw into AEW that you think would make the show better? That's it.
The first, you said the radio guy. What was the radio guy's name again?
Jim Cornette versus Orange Cassidy.
Oh, Jim Cornette. Why? I don't look at Jim Cornette as the radio guy, but Jim Cornette against Orange Cassidy. I mean, Orange Cassidy would beat the holy hell out of him. I don't think there's any debate about that. Orange Cassidy, he's got some lethal kicks. Haven't really seen what this guy's capable of. I know what he's capable of. We've spoken before. So, if I'm Jim Cornette, maybe Jim Cornette with a baseball bat. Jim Cornette with a tennis racket wrapped in barbed wire, he might have a shot. And Jim Cornette talks a big talk. But once he's in there with Orange Cassidy, it's lights out. As far as who can AEW bring in, that would really make a big difference. In terms of talent, I mean, in terms of available talent, I don't know. Depends who's available. If we're just talking anybody in general, look, if AEW were to bring it, look, I know people are going to disagree with this. Some people. Smart people won't. Other people might disagree. If they could somehow make a big money play at some point, and this will not happen, because WWE will not allow it to happen, but if they ever made a big play for Brock Lesnar to bring Brock into AEW, I think he could be a difference maker. I think he's been in WWE for so long that when he's on TV and stuff, I don't really see it making that big of a difference. That's why I laughed the other day when Vince was saying, our ratings on Mondays are down, and, obviously we're without Brock Lesnar at the moment. And I laughed because it's like Brock Lesnar has been, not every week, but you've had Brock Lesnar now on your shows for years, and the ratings have still gone down. So I don't want to hear that as an excuse. But I think you take Brock and you send him to AEW. You talk about a big defection. Now, you wouldn't have Paul Heyman with him. That's the only thing. You're separating Heyman from Lesnar. But if Lesnar were to show up one day in AEW, hop the barricade, slide into the ring, and gave Moxley an F5 or something like that, you don't think that would generate interest in AEW? I think he can make a big difference. But I wouldn't worry so much about that. If I'm them, I'm worried more about the talent that I do have. Things settle down. I'm sure they're going to pick up the Revival. Zack Ryder may end up there. They have to be careful, though. You can't just bring in all these excommunicated WWE guys, The Revival have been probably earmarked for AEW for a long time, so they're going to end up there, no doubt in my mind. They'll do something with them and the Young Bucks, but you got to kind of have a cutoff at some point. And say, okay, we've got our fill of WWE guys. Let's put a pause on that for a while. Let's look at who we have, and let's run with what we have and come up with good stories for these guys. Their momentum was really stalled by this whole pandemic situation. Everybody's dealing with it. Sucks, but what are you going to do? Blood and Guts? We still don't know when Blood and Guts is going to happen. But, focus on who you have. Make the most of what you got. And then there'll be plenty of time to bring in other people. But if Brock suddenly became available, they'd be fools not to try to get him in, at least for a few appearances. I wouldn't put the belt on him. But to get him in for some big matches, Brock Lesnar against Kenny Omega. Talk about a styles clash there. Brock Lesnar against, Brock Lesnar against Orange Cassidy. There you go. There it is. Brock Lesnar against Marko Stunt. You want to see a live murder on TV? There you go. All right, guys. This has been fun. These calls have been very interesting. I'll say interesting is a good word for it. But I have enjoyed myself. And I'm going to be back with you for episode 650. This is going to be my 650th episode of the podcast coming up on Sunday. Over the course of 12 and a half years it took me. But I have finally arrived at 650. And so everybody who is listening, who has been a fan of the shows now for years and years, I got to send a shout out to all of you. And thank you guys, because without your support, we wouldn't have gotten to 650. So hopefully you'll join me this Sunday. We'll have our Dark Side of the Ring review. We'll have a whole ton of other news. And then I will be back for the first Dynamite stream in the month of May. The first time that Dynamite is live in many weeks. They're going to be back in Jacksonville at Daly's Place. It's coming up next Wednesday. So I hope to see you all there. One last shout out here for Dried Chicken Without Flavor. Have you seen EC3's videos lately on Twitter? I've seen a couple of them. I haven't seen all of them. He's trying to create a buzz. He's trying to generate some buzz for himself. He's another one. Maybe he ends up in AEW. I don't know what you do with him and MJF in the same promotion. They just seem so similar to me. But if anybody deserves an opportunity, it's EC3. If I was going to take only a couple of more WWE guys, I'd have to bring him in. He deserves an opportunity. What happened to him in WWE is a sin. They should be ashamed that they signed him to a contract. Yeah, they paid him a living wage, but I'm sure he was looking for an opportunity, and that opportunity never came. And as far as any of us know, it's not because he did anything wrong. What happened to him sucks. And if there's one person I would love to see go somewhere else and shove it down Vince McMahon's throat, it's EC3. And maybe that's not an AEW, but if it is, I hope he gets that chance. So I wish him nothing but the best. He deserves some success, because what happened to him in WWE is an absolute joke. But anyway, I will see you guys on Sunday. I'll see you back here again next Wednesday. Again, thank you. Let's take one last look at the polls real quick. There's the AEW poll, 78 up, 22 down. There's the NXT poll, 64 up, just about 36 or so down. And you can still vote at Solomonster. I'm out of here. Be well. Please stay safe. And I will see you for 650 this Sunday. Until then, take care, everybody. Wash your hands.